I remember it coming closer and closer to exam season, and I was realizing, oh my god, I need to start revising. Like 3 months, 3.5 months out, I was like, damn, I actually need to start doing something so I can, get into the uni I want, get the grades I want. And it was almost like I'd have a spike of motivation. Like, boom, one day I just decided to do like a practice paper. I decided to do a topic in maths that I was struggling with. But then the next day I'll just crash and I'll just go back to being a loser and just being lazy. But that all changed when I had a conversation with my friend. So we'll call this friend H, right? He started revising from the start of year 13 or the start of the year when we had exams, for those of you that aren't in the UK. And he got consistent at it a lot quicker than I did. And bear in mind, we were the same ability 2 years ago. And now, of course, he's a lot better than me. He's performing better than me in every single test and so on. And I'm telling him as we're going to Tesco's one day on our break that I just really don't feel motivated to do anything. And I say, I want to do good at school. I want to try my best and I want to do good, just like everyone else. If you could choose to do good compared to doing bad, if it didn't require any effort, you'd go, yeah, of course I'd want to do good. And I was telling him how I didn't have any motivation. I feel like I just don't want to do anything. And he looks at me and goes, "Are you a girl to be thinking about motivation?" And that really hit hard because I was really taken back by it because I was like, I swim, right? I swim quite consistently for those of you that come back and watch these videos. And you know that for me, I train often and it doesn't require that much like mental effort for me to go push myself to go to a training session. It's routine, right? And that made me realize that, oh my god, I actually don't need motivation. I just need to make it routine. So in this video, I'm going to talk about how to do that, and hopefully it will help you completely forget about motivation and make things a routine and make studying even easier for yourself if you need to do that. So the main point I want to make of this is that motivation will come and go. It's not a feeling which is stable. So that's a feeling that we don't want to rely on for us to be able to go and do something. Andrew or Dr. Huberman, he's got a lot of videos on dopamine and how that affects motivation, and he explains it as sort of like a wave pool where water can spill out or the pool can fill up. So it just depends on your mood and the day on the amount of motivation you're going to get. But you can't just rely on watching a motivational video and then deciding to crank out like 10 hours worth of work when you know that tomorrow you're not going to have the same motivation. The main point with studying and making a routine is that you need to have momentum. What I mean by that is after you get started and you make that first week and you actually reach your goals for the amount of time you want to be studying for, or the amount of like papers, for example, you want to complete for that first week, every other week after that becomes a lot easier. Yeah, you might have a day where you fall off, for example, but then you'll pick yourself back up and you'll keep going throughout as long as you need to until you start to burn out a bit. But I'll talk and I'll tell you about some tips that I think that will avoid burnout. So now that we established that momentum is important, we need to now somehow embed revision into our routine. So to do that, you can't keep delaying it till the next day, right? You're gonna start today and you're gonna do a task that's difficult, that's a lot of effort to get through, but rewards you the greatest. So I'm not talking about reading notes, I'm not talking about watching videos, unless you don't know the topic, of course, but not revising anything that you already know or have a basic understanding of. As soon as you get basics understanding of anything during the subject, or as long as you get most of the subject covered with a basic amount of understanding, I want you to go straight into past papers with application. Now, of course, that's going to be hard. This is going to be the hardest time to start because you don't know how the paper's structured, I'm guessing. So, you're going to go into the paper, you're going to set yourself a 2 hour timer, and for those 2 hours, or however long the paper timer is, right, you're going to grind out the paper, no distractions, phone away, put it in a desk or something where you can't see it. And I want you to do that paper for 2 hours or however long the paper lasts for. After that, you're going to take a 15-minute break and I want you to mark it. This is going to be very difficult, especially that first time. But what I want you to start doing is now setting goals for how many papers you want to complete a week. So for a day, right, you can have, let's just start Monday. You're going to do a paper Monday, you're going to mark it Monday, and that's going to be it for that subject. If you think about it, that's what, if you just do it and maybe you finish the paper early and you don't want to go back and check your work, which is fine, maybe that will take you 2.5 hours. That is still assuming that you just, let's say half the day, right, you're awake, so 12 hours you're awake. 2.5 hours is really not that deep, right? You've still got 9.5 hours left to do whatever you want. So if you do that on Monday, then you check your mistakes on the same day, mark it, and then all the questions that you got half or less marks, so let's say you got 1 out of 2 on a 2 marker. If you got 1, you're going to circle that question and you're going to redo it the next day. So circle every single question that you got half or less marks on, and you're going to do that question again on the next day. So then it comes to Tuesday and you're going to sit down, you're going to take a look at every single question that you circled. You're going to write it out on a separate piece of paper, right? So then you don't flick back and look at the questions again. And what you're going to do, you're going to go through those questions and you're going to redo everything, then check mark scheme again at the end. And you're going to see how much you improved. I forgot to mention, keep a percentage of that paper that you did and then do the updated percentage after you do your we'll do all the questions you did crap on the second time round. When I started doing this for biology, I was getting mid 40% up to 50%, right? As soon as you keep doing this and you'll notice patterns in the paper, and the later you go on in papers, like per year, for example, so if you start with 2017, then you go, by the time you get to 2020, 2021 papers, you're going to see a massive improvement, or not massive, but hopefully 5 to 10% improvement consistently per paper that you do, just because you pick up the patterns and how they actually want you to answer questions. Same thing in maths. There's only a certain amount of questions that they can be putting in, right? They're all going to be different forms of the same questions. So you'll be able to pick that up after you practice enough. So after you start doing this, you want to build that consistent habit, because that's the hardest thing to do. Honestly, the hardest thing is doing papers, and I can tell you that from personal experience. Starting off is absolutely awful, but as soon as you start seeing that improvement after paper will give you the motivation to keep going. I always found that whenever I did bad, that did not make me more motivated. That made me just want to curl up in a ball and avoid literally just life. Like I didn't want to go study, I didn't want to do anything. As soon as you start seeing those little improvements, as soon as you start seeing that on average you're getting 5% higher per test, you'll realize that what you're doing is working, and it's not impossible to keep going up and up and up. And that first 10% is a lot easier to reach than the last 10% of a paper, right? If you're at 50 out of 100 on a paper percentage, right, it's a lot easier for you to go from 50 to 70 than from 70 to 90, because there's less stuff for you to work on. And you'll just see that you can keep picking up momentum, it'll keep getting easier for you, and you just keep getting better at it. Same thing with a sport. If you're trying to get consistent in, I don't know, for example, I'm just going out to box with my mates right now. Getting consistent with that is easy, because I just send them a text. There's other people to keep me motivated and engaged and keep me accountable for what I'm saying, for what time I'm saying we should go and do something. So then you just have, that's another tip I want to say, you need to have other people that are going to keep you accountable. When you, I don't know, if you study in a group of people, a group of 3 people, then you have other people to keep you accountable for when you're doing maths, for example, in a group. If someone else has finished before you, they're going to be in your ear saying, are you done yet? Are you done yet? Let's compare answers. That's going to get you to keep going. So hopefully if you've listened to this, you'll understand that now it's just about getting the momentum and getting into consistent habits, and that will avoid you from needing motivation. I hope you found this video helpful. Make sure you like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.